First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Tony Chinappi. I'm with the Milford National Bank and Trust Company. I want to welcome you to Whitcomb House for today's collaborative event featuring the people from Whitcomb and some of the services that they provide. Also, Attorney Marc Cusano from Borchers Law, who will be speaking on the legal aspect of this, and myself, who will be speaking on the financial aspect. But I think the gist of it is to become more familiar, or everything is earmarked to become more familiar with assisted living. You know, what it is, how it works, what it costs, how you can fund your stay here. So it's really for you, so your questions, especially maybe toward the end, in answering whatever questions you have. I can assure you we will not answer all your questions. That's where we need some individual time to get into your particular situation. But I think as an overview, we'll be able to do it. If I could ask, could you go to your packets? We'll just kind of go through that a little bit so we'll know what to do for the rest of the afternoon. We have one gentleman here, Brad, who hasn't arrived yet. Hopefully he'll come. If he doesn't, Paul will fill in on some of the details. So the first thing I want to do is introduce the head table here. We have John Pillar, who's the Milford Veterans Agent. So John will be speaking shortly. Then we have Miss Lavelle, and Paul will give us more of a description of her role and her organization, which is PACE. Brad isn't here. He's speaking on some alternative ways of funding long-term care or assisted living in this case, with some insurance products, things of that nature. And if he doesn't arrive, Paul will be able to fill in a bit. Then we have Marc Cusano from Borchers Law in Medway, and he'll be speaking, and you'll see his outline that we'll go over. We won't go over, we'll go over it before he speaks. That gives you a good overview of some of the estate planning issues. And then myself speaking on some of the financial issues. Okay, with that, I think I've mentioned basically the format. Okay, in your packets, you'll see today's program, so we'll try to follow that as best we can. That's the yellow page on top. Then the next page is an evaluation form, and what I would ask you to do is to fill out the first part of it, name, address, numbers, email address, and I want to assure you this information is not for publication. It'll be held in the strictest of confidence. It's really for our programming purposes and to get a little demographics. We won't tell anybody how old you are, but we want to kind of get an idea what the age groups are. And then as you go through it, as we're making our presentations toward the end, we'll give you a little bit of time to rate the presentations and what kind of an impact we're making. And then on the back side, some additional questions, things that are of most interest to you, things that we could maybe eliminate from the presentation, things we might want to add. If there are future presentations you'd like to read or hear about, we'd be able to put that together. And then 3 specific questions on Whitcomb House itself. If you have any particular interests here, if you had an opportunity to get a tour through the site, and if you'd like to have Paul contact you, or if you'd like to contact Paul. Similarly with Marc, in terms of some of the estate planning issues that we'll be bringing up, and if you'd like to meet with him on a private, no-fee basis. And similarly with myself on some of the financial issues where we could really get into your situation and be much more specific with our initial recommendations anyways. And again, if there are any other topics you'd like to hear about in other presentations, please indicate that. It's very important that we get these on the way out, so nobody can leave unless we get one. You're going to stay overnight. You'll have your first night at Whitcomb if you don't give us this back. Okay. Then there's a picture of my boss. He insisted that I show everybody. I had to do it. But it's our newsletter at the bank that we either mail out or email out on a monthly basis. I'd say a lot of good general, in some cases timely information that we could mail to you or not. You can easily start with it and unsubscribe if you didn't think you'd want to receive it any longer. And the last sheet in there is these 3 presentations that we're doing and have done. We basically had one presentation, that's the last page. I got my little cheat notes there. But the last page tells about our seminar, panel discussion a couple of weeks ago at Blair House, today at Whitcomb, and one future one to come up at Cornerstone. And I might add, and I've been pretty impressed with this, that the 3 communities that we have in Milford work very closely with each other. For example, I know of one situation where where Paul couldn't accommodate someone, called another community, and for a period of time they were able to put that person in place. They don't do that on a regular basis by any means, but it just shows the kind of the cooperative spirit of the people that you're working with. So having said that, let me mention a couple of other things. We're being taped today by Milford Cable, so if he puts the camera on you, wave to somebody at home and you can put it on TV sometime. And again, if we go back to the presentation, to the folder rather, Marc has included a brochure, a sheet about his firm. They are primarily a firm that does trusts for people. They're estate planning, elder care attorneys that get right into the nitty-gritty of estate planning, wills, trusts, healthcare proxies, durable power of attorneys, homestead declarations, things that really probably should be a part of your portfolio or your situation. And then there's a sheet of Marc's presentation. It's a very general topic listing. We're not going to get into estate taxes. We're not going to get into a lot of that. But before we leave, you'll know that you don't want to be in the pits. I'll leave that for your thought. You don't want to be in the pits. And then there's a short presentation of my own. First, I have a commercial on the front page about the Milford National Bank, if you're not familiar with it, where it just tells about our core businesses and our 3 separate locations, and an introduction from our Chief Executive Officer, Kristen Cavallo, also welcoming you here. And then the back side is my presentation, which I'll hold off on to try to bring things together. I'm not sure if we're going to have a break, so I may need a show of hands as we're going, because we're in a little bit of a time crunch in terms of the use of the room. So we'll play that by ear, but we do want to have a panel discussion at the end where the questions that we can answer while we're talking will get answered as directly as we can. Okay? Any questions so far? Somebody, no questions? We understand everything. Okay, let's get started then. Okay, I'd like to start it off with Paul, his introduction, and a little bit about some of his speakers.
Should I bring the mic to me?
No, yeah, just to you, yeah.
So, can everyone hear me all right? Okay. So first of all, I just want to say welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today at Whitcomb House. This is a very special time for our community because this month is Whitcomb House's birthday month, and we're celebrating now our 20th year of service to the Milford area. So it's a very special time for us, and we're excited to have you all here as we're starting to engage with different ways that we can help our residents and prospective residents better afford assisted living. So as you may know, assisted living as an industry is growing, and the costs associated with assisted living are also growing more and more every year. Whitcomb House is by far one of the most affordable options in the Milford area and has been for many years. And that's a tradition that we want to continue, and we can continue in conjunction with some of the wonderful people here at this table with me now. So Tony did a really great job introducing everyone, so I won't belabor the point. We do have John Pilla here. He'll be talking about veterans aid and attendance and how that can tie in with assisted living. Kathleen Lavelle here does represent the PACE program, but she's from Fallon Health. So she is going to be talking about the PACE program. That's the program for all-inclusive care for the elderly. It's an exciting new program. Whitcomb House currently does not have it in the building, but we are negotiating a contract to get it in the building, and hopefully we'll have it here within the next 2 months. which is a very exciting thing for us. So, without further ado, I just wanted to go ahead and get started. Brad still isn't here, so Tony, if it's okay, I will talk for just a minute. And we'll just talk very briefly, because I'm not an expert on senior life care funding, although I have worked with it a couple of times now during my tenure here at Whitcomb House. So what senior life care funding is an organization that Whitcomb House and our parent company, Capital Senior Living, works with to help our residents and prospective residents better afford assisted living. So how do we do that? So if anybody has a life insurance policy of $50,000 or more, what senior life care funding can do is they can purchase that life insurance policy from you at the market rate, and you can use that money to pay for assisted living cost care. Now, part of that money will be carved out to remain as a funeral benefit, and should, unfortunately, you go with this program and you don't live out the remainder of the money, what is left will go back to your beneficiaries. It's a wonderful program. I've used it several times here to help residents who thought, I just can't afford it, I don't know. This has helped residents move into Whitcomb House. If you are curious about senior life care funding and you'd like to do more of a deep dive on it, please grab my card today on the way out, or stop me after the presentation. We can talk more about senior life care funding, and I'll also get you in touch with our representative who helps with our community particularly. So unfortunately, Brad's not here, so I can't go too much further into the program. He'd be able to speak more eloquently about it. But if you are interested in learning more about senior life care funding, please let me know, and I will help you with that. So, I tell you what, why don't we move on next to Kathy, if that's all right. So Kathy, again, she is from Fallon Health. She is going to be talking about the PACE program and about Fallon Health.
There's a lot of programs out in our communities, but they tend to start at the age of 65. So we're able to assist seniors in the community 55 and older. The requirements for the program is you need to be, as I just stated, 55 or older. You need to live in our service area, which Milford is. Our service area and surrounding towns around here. I actually manage 17 towns and 5 zip codes in Worcester. So the Milford community is our areas that we're able to support. You need to have 2 activities of daily living that you need assistance with. And activities of daily living can be something as simple as cueing someone to say it's time to take your medicine and have a sip of the punch. It can be light housekeeping, it can be laundry, cooking, it can be assisting people from getting from a dining room chair to the couch. It can be supporting people in their personal hygiene to assist with showering. Or it can be as significant as putting someone on a Hoyer lift and transferring them into their bed for the evening. So the 4th requirement for the program is we need to deem you to be safe living in your home environment. Now your home environment in this program can consist of assisted living facilities such as Whitcomb House. It can be your residential home where you've lived for 52 years, because who in this room wants to spend some time in long-term care or in nursing homes? Raise of hands. Who would love to stay at assisted living, a beautiful facility like this, or reside in your existing residence where you currently live? Show of hands. So this is the program that is available for our seniors in the community. Our mission is to keep our seniors aging in place in their living environment. So your living environment can be an assisted living, it can be a group home, it can be a rest home, it can be your residence that you've lived in for 50, 60 years. And what happens with the program is that we would come in and assess your living situation, see if you have those 2 activities of daily living that we can assist you with. An enrollment nurse would come into your home and have a conversation just like I'm having with you today. She would assess your needs. She would ask you specific questions about what your activities of daily living might be, and she would be able to give you recommendations for safety tips. So she would go in also into your home and monitor to see if you have chair rails that you might need, or a tub bench that would assist you in the shower. So our program, being all-inclusive, we're able to see the needs that you may have in your home or in an assisted living environment and fulfill those needs so that you're able to age in place. It's all about aging in place in your current environment. Any questions so far? Okay.
Can you quantify how PACE is supported by Fallon?
How PACE is supported by, yes, I'll get to that, okay? So if you, PACE is supported by Fallon, you can have, you can enroll in the program in 3 ways. It can be at no cost, it can be at a shared cost, or you can privately pay for the program. The program can be at no cost, and the program being, you would roll over into Summit Elder Care. So the insurance that I spoke about, any type of insurance that you have, it would roll over. You would become insured by Summit Elder Care, and it can be paid, if you make $2,199 or less a month in gross income, and you have $2,000 or less in assets, the program can be at no cost. So what would happen is that you would have all your medical needs met by our interdisciplinary team at our site. We have 6 sites. 2 are in Worcester. There's 1 in Leominster. There's 1 in Charlton, Mass. There's 1 in Springfield, Mass. And we just opened our 6th site in Lowell, Massachusetts in the beginning of February. And we happily just enrolled our first participant for March 1st. So going back to the financial criteria, if you are below that $2,199 gross income, and that would be your Social Security and or pension, you can have veterans benefits, which I think we'll speak about in a little while. If you have 8 in attendance, that is not considered part of your gross income. So that would not be included as your gross income. Now going to assets, assets would be your IRAs, your savings accounts, your checking accounts, annuities, anything like that. In this program, the beauty of the PACE program is that there is no 5-year look back. So you are able to work with one of our Mass Health coordinators and look at your assets that you have, and you're able to roll over your assets into a trust, irrevocable or revocable, or you're able to put your assets into a loved one's name and take your name off of a checking account or a savings account, because oftentimes we work with couples and it may be just one, the husband or the wife that is going to enroll in the program. So our recommendation through our Mass Health coordinator would be that you would roll over your assets into your spouse's name or into a child's name, and have the assets then be below $2,000. You are also able to spend down your assets with pre-funeral arrangements. We also give you options where we make recommendations just to say, you know, for your estate planning purposes, have you prepaid for your funeral? And there you can, you know, funerals are range between $5,000 and $10,000. So there you can spend down your assets in that way. So to enroll in the program, you would need to have the 2 activities of daily living, and we would need to deem you to be safe in your community that you're living in, and you would need to have the 2 activities of daily living that you need some type of assistance with. So the all-inclusive piece of the program is that you would enroll in Summit Elder Care and have Summit Elder Care as your insurance. You would carry a Summit Elder Care card where you would be able to go to your local pharmacy like you do currently and use that card. If you're at no cost, all your medical needs, whether it is hearing aids, hearing aid batteries, dentures, open heart surgery, anything that's medically necessary that our interdisciplinary team approves, that would be covered at no cost. So you would not you would never receive a bill for co-pays, deductibles, co-insurance, any type of medical care, as long as our team at the sites that I just mentioned. Our team consists of doctors specialized in gerontology, nurse practitioners, social workers, physical therapists, occupational therapists, activity directors, nutritionists, dietitians. So it's a group of people that are at those sites, those 6 locations. We are there all day, every day, managing our participants. Now, in a situation where you live at, for example, Whitcomb House, we share the care with Whitcomb House. So they provide a lot of, we overlap a lot of the services. So here you get activities, you get 3 nutritious meals. So that's where Paul was speaking that we're working on a contract, because we blend nicely with what our mission statement is along with what Whitcomb House. We are looking for our seniors to age in place in an environment where they're going to be happy and healthy and stay out of nursing homes and long-term cares and hospitals and ERs. And we have a great package that we are working towards completing so that we're able to meet our goal of our seniors aging in place gracefully. Any other questions? So I have literature out on the table also, my business card if you want to meet with me one-on-one or grab some literature and look it over. I'm more than happy to schedule an appointment with you. We offer tours Monday through Friday from 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. And what I want to assure is that there's no commitment in gathering information, because I'm in my 50s and I say to my mother, who I'm a caretaker for, we are all going to need to ask for help at some point. Our generation, for us to be able to meet the goal, and what I'm hearing in this room is everybody wants to age in place in their either existing living environment or a beautiful facility like this. And in order to do that and stay out of our nursing home and long-term care, we're all going to have to raise our hand and say, I need some help fulfilling what I desire to do in my living space. And so this is an option for our seniors 55 and older to look at, to explore, and to gather information, because what the worst case scenario that I run into is when families are in crisis and they're scrambling and they're not able to come to a conclusion as a group to make the best educated decision for their loved one. And so I offer my time and talent and expertise in the field to be able to share the information that I have and to offer tours or just one-on-one meetings at a later time at your convenience. Okay? Thank you for your time. Sure.
On the case of, and the $2,000 or $21.99.
Yes, yes.
Is that a combined income for husband and wife?
That solo, single, yes,
So it would
yes.
be husband or wife?
Husband or wife, right, right. We do look at, if it's a couple, this program is funded by the state and by the government. So when we apply those 2 activities of daily living that you need to have to enroll in the program, that allows us as a PACE program to apply for a frail elder waiver for you. And in applying for the frail elder waiver, the state does require, if it's a husband-wife, we are looking at both incomes, but to enroll, it's just that person's income that they're looking at. We do have to submit both incomes, but they're only looking at the person who is enrolling. That needs to be $2,199 or less.
That's per month.
$21.99 per month, yes. So that would be Social Security and your pension.
And when you said aid and assistance?
Aid and attendance.
Aid and attendance.
That veterans benefits.
Oh, better. Oh, so
That-
that doesn't
Benefits,
count.
benefits, John's an
Yes.
All right, that's
Yes.
great.
So in conclusion, what the PACE program of all-inclusive care, you would be receiving insurance, Summit Elder Care. You would be receiving the opportunity, if you so desire, to come to our Adult Day Health Program 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, with transportation. You are receiving your medical care from our gerontologist at our site. Our gerontologist at each site, we only have, the capacity is for 300 participants. Once we reach that number, we would need to build another site. At this point, I manage the Grafton Street site. We are in the low 200s. And on an average day, we probably have 70 or 80 participants. Our participants range from the ages of 55 and to, I think we have 101-year-olds. We also specialize, I forgot to mention, in dementia and cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's, cognitive impairment, and dementia. And then you would have all your needs met in your home through our adult day health clinical nurse manager. When she assesses you in the home, we are also looking at fulfilling the needs in your home environment, whether we need to bring in visiting nurses or a home health aide or any type of safety equipment that you would need in your home to be able to gracefully age in place. Okay.
Yeah, good question.
If somebody needs to go to a hospital, are you affiliated with a specific hospital, or could they go locally?
Well, we tend to, it's a case-by-case situation, and that's why we have 3 steps to enrolling. So our nurse would go out to your home and assess your home environment, and then you're invited to our site, depending on where you reside. We would have you come to the site that's closest to your address, and at that time, we would discuss the needs that you have, who the specialists are that you see, why you see them, how long you've been seeing them. Obviously, if someone is in the middle of chemotherapy, we are not going to disrupt that service there, and you would continue going to the oncologist that you're currently seeing. So each situation, I can't give you a black and white
But
answer.
in an emergency?
In an emergency, you would go to the closest hospital.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
Any other
Jack,
questions?
Thank you, and we're going to try to save some
Okay.
questions maybe for the end.
Okay, great.
As Tony mentioned, I'm the Veterans Agent for the town of Milford, and every community that you live in has a Veterans Agent or is supposed to have one. What I have to say is like more directed to some of you and not to all of you. So by a show of hands, are there any veterans in the room and or spouse or widow? Oh, okay. No, not a child. No, just a veteran, a widow, or a spouse. So really, what I have to say is only directed to those people. And what I'll do before we leave is I'll give you our card. And Tony also stole my thunder in that I was going to say, it's sad that that life makes things so complicated at the end and not at the beginning. And I've been doing this for 25 years, and I have to say, honestly, it is both complicated and complex. And as Paul mentioned, Whitcomb House has been here for about 20 years, and I came here 20 years ago to find out about aid and attendance. And again, this is not to scare you or discourage you, but it is a complex formula that works in providing the resources. Okay, so to get to who I am, what we do, I can only service the people who are going to reside in Milford. So if you choose Whitcomb House, that's a residence in Milford, and or any of the other assisted living facilities. But if there's an assisted facility in another town, then there is a veterans agent associated with that who can help you. And I also like his suggestion, and we do it in our office, and we say to the people that we talk to, we know this is going to be a little difficult to understand, so if you have a loved one, or it can be a friend, it doesn't have to be a family member, we'd like to talk with them or talk to as many people as you give us permission to talk to. We don't allow, or we will not speak to someone who calls and says, oh, by the way, I'd like to know something about someone. We don't divulge that information. but we're willing to speak to whoever you want us to talk to. All right, to get to the benefit specifically, and by the way, Tony said we had a previous conversation this week, and the conversation was that I work for the State of Massachusetts Veterans Department. This benefit that I'm going to brief with you is provided by the federal program, VA. That's national in scope. So what is my involvement? If I'm not officially connected to the VA, then why am I here? Well, think of it this way. If you went to the Shine counselor down at the senior center and asked them for some information on applying for Blue Cross Blue Shield medical insurance, they would assist you. If you have a problem with that program, you have to go to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So it's the same with us. We can help you with the federal application for aid and attendance in assisted living, but you're dealing with the federal government. Now, the part that we play, we're referred to as contact people. And what that means is, when you file an application with the VA, you can do it in one of several ways. You can do it yourself. And if you have any questions, you get on the phone and you dial their number, and they're going to tell you it's Monday, and Monday's a busy day. And we'll get back to you in a couple of hours at this telephone number. So you call them on a Wednesday. Well, Wednesday's the middle of the week, and there's something going on then, and so on and so forth. So that's if you're going to handle this yourself. You have other options, and you've probably heard of service organizations called Disabled American Veterans, Veterans of Foreign Wars, American Legion, Italian American War Veterans. They're service organizations, and they will assist you also. And what you will do with them and or us is you will give us the power of attorney, but it's not the same power of attorney that the legal department is going to explain to you. This power of attorney is only to deal with this application. It has nothing to do with your personal affairs. So, why would you do that? Well, the reason you would do it is because in the federal building in Boston, on another floor, where the VA is located, these service organizations have their personnel there that if you have a question, you call your contact office and they'd go upstairs and the VA would divulge the information to them. So that's the part that we play. Now, what is this aid and attendance? Aid and attendance, and let me preface this with one other comment, and that is the federal government has two financial programs. One is called compensation, and the other is called pension. Compensation means if the veteran was injured in the service or has something now that they can refer back to their military service, the VA will compensate them for that at the rate of a percentage, 10%, 20, 30, up to 100. But that has to be an injury or an ailment. That's called compensation. The program we're talking about is called pension. And it's what is called, and it's referred to as a need-based program. However, in order to make this applicable to a lot of veterans, they have called it an enhanced pension program, which means they will take into consideration a lot of the costs that are associated with an assisted living and count that as an expense against your income in order to qualify you for the benefit. The benefit is in these amounts. For a surviving spouse, it's $1,149 per month. For a single veteran, it is $1,788 per month. And for the married veteran, $2,120. So, the best suggestion that I can make is that if you fit into any of the categories that I mentioned at the beginning of my talk, your best bet would be, well, we use a phrase or a cliche in our office, and that is, we don't encourage nor do we discourage. In other words, if someone comes in and says, John, do you think I qualify for this? I'd say, I'd rather not comment on that. Let's file the application and have the VA respond to you. So your best bet is to go into a veterans agent in the community that you intend to reside and ask them to file an application on your behalf. The bad news is it takes between 6 to 8 months to become approved. The good news is it goes back retroactively to the day that you filed the claim. Okay? So, unless the panel has some questions or anyone else, yes?
What is the difference between this, or is there a difference, or is it the same to Veterans Financial? There's an organization called Veterans Financial.
I think that's an independent company that fills out the application for you, and they may charge you a fee. I can't.
They don't charge a fee.
Oh, okay, well then, wait, let's go back.
No.
Then don't ask me who they are.
No. And they don't fill it out for you. I'm just trying to decipher all these different organizations.
Yeah, well, then I really can't.
Talking about is the same.
Yeah, I can't really answer your question because I can only tell you what we don't charge, and we will stay with you for the duration until you're either accepted or denied, and then we'll also help you with an appeal.
Now, when you say they don't, I don't understand they're going back, that might take 6 to 8 months to find an answer. They literally cover from the date you would start the date they accept you, or the date you start the process?
No, the rates that I mentioned, they will apply from the first day that you file that application if it's approved.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer that question either, but it's the predicament that we're in. So I'm just going to venture to say, by your bringing that to John in a certain way, bringing it to me in a certain way, bringing it to Mark in a certain way, or even Kathy, from their background and the resources that we have, we'll get you an answer, hopefully within 7 or 8 months, and less than that. But that's what I'm asking you to do, is to reach out to other professionals that have had some experience, at least more than you've had. I know a lot of people that I work with, they're just challenged by questions like that. And they have a resolve to find an answer for you. It may not be the answer you like, but at least we can bring it to some degree of conclusion.
So if I go to my father's community and I request from the veterans organization there, someone will physically assist me?
I can't speak for them. I'm saying about if you don't get the answer there.
I'm asking.
Okay.
Will someone physically assist with the paperwork that I am unable to cognitively understand?
They're obligated,
Okay, thank you.
and if they don't, you should contact the Boston office.
Okay, thank you.
And what I'm going to add to that is, different agents have different abilities. And if you don't get the answer, not that you don't like or dislike, but if it's not thorough enough, then you've got to reach out to somebody else, be it an attorney's firm, an investment banking situation, or some of the various, organizations like PACE. I don't know all the abbreviations, but I know there's a lot of agencies out there. And actually, Paul is a great resource for those kinds of things because he's been through it with other clients, other patients. It's really a case of reaching out and frankly not accepting no as an answer until you're thoroughly convinced that there's no funding there, that there's it's just an avenue there's no worth in pursuing. Which is a great lead, and we doing okay? We don't need a break, do we? Can we hold on a little bit longer? I hope, because we want to get going. This is going to be a great time for Marc to come in from the legal point of view. And like, we haven't mentioned Medicaid at all, not that we're looking at it from assisted living because it's not a covered expense, but he'll bring in a little bit of that, and he'll bring in a variety of other things, and you'll walk away what it means not to be in the pits. Have I confused you with that?
No.
Not being in the pits. We'll see. Marc.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, so I think the estate planning piece of this is important. And just a little background on our firm. You can probably tell by the name, Borchers Trust Law, that we put a heavy emphasis on using trusts in estate planning. So if you've ever asked questions like, who will care for me if I can't care for myself? Or will my assets be preserved someday if I need care? And will everything be protected for my beneficiaries, for my children? Those are estate planning questions, and you're speaking my language at that point. And what we like to do is take those questions, and I've put them in a format that Tony had referenced. So estate planning generally is planning for what are you going to do with assets, and who are the individuals we're going to put in place to care for us. And if you do not have an estate plan, or if you have an outdated estate plan, then it's going to leave you in the pits. And I'll describe what the pits is in a minute. And I have well, let's jump into that. So the PITS is an acronym for protection, incapacity, transfers to your beneficiaries, taxes, and support. And we like to ask the question, do you have a trust? And if you don't, should you have a trust? And can a trust help keep us out of the pits? Many people have a perception that trusts are for the wealthy, and that I don't have anywhere near the amount of assets that would require the use of a trust. Others say, yeah, a trust, well, that I don't really understand it, so I don't think I need it. Well, I think a best way to really understand a trust is with an illustration. So I have 3 girls, ages just turned 7, 4, and a 1-year-old. When the 4-year-old was probably in the 2 to 3 age range, we had this. We still do have a routine, but at that point we had our nighttime bedtime routine, where we would go and get a snack and get it together, go upstairs, read some books before bed. And my 2 3-year-old at the time wanted to be in charge of the snack and wanted to bring that up to her older sister. So we would do that. We'd head over, pick out the snack for the evening, graham crackers, let's call it, and fill up the little snack bowls. I'd hand it to my 3-year-old. Then she would take that and deliver it upstairs, spilling a few on the way to her older sister. Well, that's a trust right there. There's really 4 elements to look at for a trust. There's a grantor, that's the person that made the trust. There's a trustee, that's the person who's in charge of managing what's in the trust. There's property, you have to fill the trust with something. And then there's beneficiaries who are ultimately going to benefit from what's in it. So in my illustration, who's the grantor? I was. Who was the trustee in that story? The 3-year-old daughter. The property was the snack. And who was the beneficiary? The older daughter. So that's a trust right there. That's it in a nutshell. And there are different kinds of trusts. There are revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts, just to kind of give you a general overview. Most people will benefit from a revocable trust, but there are uses for irrevocable trusts as well. And the differences between the two are kind of just as they sound. Revocable means you can revoke it, change it, and amend it. You have full control over everything that's in that kind of a trust. Irrevocable trusts are a little different. You are giving up some control over what goes into those, and you're giving up the right to be able to change the terms of the trust. So coming down to the pits, how can one or both of those trusts help us? Well, looking at protection, one way that a trust can protect you is helping to avoid probate. Many have heard of that process where someone passes away and they have some assets that can't be accessed. They might be a bank account that was just in their name, and now their surviving spouse or beneficiaries can't get the bank funds without going to court to get appointed. That's the process of probate. A trust, if that bank account was in a trust, it would avoid having to go through the court-involved process. Another way that a trust can protect is with long-term care issues. And I met with a client actually yesterday that his spouse is in a rehab, long-term rehab, and probably will end up staying there permanently. And he came to me and said, I don't want to lose my house, and I don't want to lose my other assets. What do I do? He had never done, he had done some planning a long time ago, but he had an old, outdated will and healthcare proxy power of attorney, but no other planning. And all he had was a house and $200,000 that he received as an inheritance from his father. So if his wife does in fact end up needing long-term care, he'll have to use those assets. So if we look at some of the limits to getting Mass Health to pay for long-term care, as a married couple, they'd be able to keep around $121,000. And the house would be okay as long as we put it in his name. But there's still, if we say he has $200,000 in assets, that's an extra $80,000 that they're over the limit. So his wife wouldn't qualify for Mass Health today. And now we're at a point where what do we do? Does he just have to spend the $80,000 on the care, or is there a way that he can protect it? And there are some tools that we will explore with him. But if he had done some planning ahead of time, such as with an irrevocable trust, and got past a 5-year window, maybe that would have been protected. So there are uses for it, and it all depends on the situation. Generally, it was Paul that had mentioned earlier about the ways of funding assisted living and using the life insurance as a way to come up with some cash. And if whatever isn't used from that can go to beneficiaries. So we say that's great. What a great tool and creative use of an asset to fund your care. And we could take that then and do some planning with it. Can we take the cash that you get, put it into a trust so that it could still be used to pay for the assisted living care, but at the same time can be passed on to your beneficiaries by avoiding probate. And also moving to the T, I'm going to skip over the I for a second, but move to the T in PITS, which is the transfers to beneficiaries. We can provide our beneficiaries with protection when we use a trust. So, for example, if we're going to leave two children, they're each going to get $100,000 each in an inheritance. They get it outright. One of those children is married and then goes through a divorce. Well, their $100,000 inheritance is now subject to the divorce proceedings. If the other child gets in a car accident and is sued, their $100,000 inheritance is potentially subject to a claim in a lawsuit. So is there a way that we could pass on that inheritance to them so that there's protections in place? And the answer is yes, through the trust. So going back to the life insurance as a funding tool, if we did that, maybe we'd put it into a trust. So it's used to pay for assisted living, but if anything is left, it passes to beneficiaries in a protected manner. The I in incapacity, just jumping back in PITS, is incapacity. That's power of attorney, healthcare documents. I think most people are relatively familiar with the importance of those. I'll just add that a trust is a nice way to also help during periods of disability or incapacity. A power of attorney is giving someone authority over your financial matters, but you're just giving them general authority to do banking, take out loans, deal with real estate. They don't really have any instructions about what to do with the assets. If you have the asset in a trust instead and become disabled, well, now your backup trustee takes over and manages what's in the trust, and they have to do that for your benefit. And there's instructions now in the trust about what their role is and responsibility and duty is. So a trust is a nice way to, I think, protect us as we get older. I won't talk too much about the taxes. Generally we're referring to estate taxes, but there are also some ways to save capital gains taxes as well with assets in a trust. And lastly is support. We are big proponents of getting a plan in place, but then making sure that it's maintained and updated on a regular basis. So we don't like just putting a trust or a will or whatever it is in place for a client and then say, okay, great, see you later, call us in 10 years if something changes. Something will change. So we have support programs for a very minimal fee. We meet on a regular basis with clients and look at the documents, look at their personal situation, and inform them of changes in the law so that we keep your plan current and working for you. So that's just a general overview of some of the estate planning issues to consider. So make sure that you don't fall into the pits. It's the key.
Okay, we'll have some more questions for Marc, I'm sure. The brochure that he was reading off of or making notes on, it's in your packet with the orange writing. You'll see the definition of the PITS, just the acronym for protection and capacity, transfers, taxes, and support. Also, in the little booklet that we've provided for you from the bank, a lot of the definitions that Marc made reference to are here, and a little bit of a flow on some of the other issues. For example, there's a little section on people with special needs, be they children or adults, which again is something else that everybody here works with on some kind of a regular basis. So if you have a family member or friend, we would be the people to at least start a conversation with. And again, there's the centerfold particularly is a good outline. I'd like to also ask you if you could maybe just have your evaluation form handy. Maybe you can start jotting down a few more things because you only have to hear from me. But I do want to bring Paul back just to kind of tie in some of the things that we've talked about. Apparently Brad's not going to be here, so I don't know if there's any more need, but I think that's a good example. Life insurance you probably think is just for death. So there may be another means for it to be used as a living benefit and not just a death benefit.
So yes, unfortunately Brad's not going to be here, but Tony brought up a great point, which is that, and it's a point that can actually expand to some other things we've talked about here today, which is there are programs out there that you can take advantage of that you might not have thought would be useful when you're going to pay for assisted living. Life insurance is one of those things. What you can do with veterans benefits, aid and attendance, it's another option. The PACE program, another great option. So I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about assisted living as an industry, kind of as a whole. So let me throw some numbers out there for you. The average cost of home care right now in Massachusetts is $25 an hour. There is a new law in place that states that after 8 hours a day, you need to make sure that your home care worker has a break. You're going to give them vacation time if they're working with you for a set amount of time. You know, there's a lot going into making home care a little more expensive. The average home care for a year can go upwards of 6 figures very easily. A nursing home in Massachusetts on average is between $10,000 and $12,000 a month. For assisted living, your average month's worth of rent in Massachusetts is about $6,000 to $7,000. Here at Whitcomb House, we're significantly more affordable than that. We try and keep our prices very low because for us, it's all about giving good quality care at those affordable prices that our families can maintain. But still, with being thousands of dollars less than our competitors, I still have families that come to me every day and say, how can I do it? How can we possibly afford this? And that's why I wanted to bring this particular panel here today, because there are options out there for you. And Tony brought up another great point, which is that it's never too early to start considering your options. Yes, bless you. If somebody comes to me and they say, I have an emergency, we need to move mom or dad in next week, yes, we can do that. Yes, we can find a way to help you. But if you do have some time, if you have that year, if you have a couple of years, don't hesitate to start putting together now how you can make things work for you and your family. There are resources out there. I want you to take away from today, if nothing else, that despite the cost of assisted living, which is going up, there are options out there that you can use to help yourself or help your loved ones afford assisted living. So, I'm going to jump it back over to Tony, and then I think if anybody has any questions after that for the panel, we'll go from there, right?
Good, very good. So this is my opportunity to talk to you a little bit. Again, my name is Tony Chinappi. I'm a Milford guy. I've been a teacher, coach, athletic director for about 15 years, and for the last 30 years, I've been a certified financial planner with Ameriprise Financial, a national firm. I'm currently doing some part-time work at the Milford National Bank and Trust Company, which is what I want to also mention. We as a bank are a trust company. So we can work with families, generally families or individuals, as a co or sole trustee of your estate. For example, I'm working with Paul with an elderly woman who we were called in on because she couldn't maintain her residence. She was hoarding. She was alone. She had a significant hearing problem. It really wasn't a good situation, and they took her in as a temporary resident, and she's living well, really enjoying it. The problem is her assets are kind of all over the place. There's not a lot of them. She's 88 years old, but again, in good health. So basically, we brought in Marc and his law firm, who did the legal aspect of it, became the power of attorney. We created a trust to put all of her assets in, and the Milford National Bank and Trust Company became the trustee of her estate. And what we did, we're in the process of selling her house now after we cleaned it out, and that was an experience. We've sold her car already. We've transferred her bank accounts, modest numbers, to our bank. This is not an investment situation. This is a management situation. And I'm really proud to stand here and say that this woman has been well taken care of. Her assets are going to probably last another 4 years based on her current conditions and everything else. and we know the money's going to run out. So what we'll do probably in 3 years is begin a mass health or Medicaid planning approach. We'll bring Marc back in, we'll do whatever paperwork has to be done, and as a result, she'll continue in a nursing home situation covered by mass health. She'll have under $2,000 to her name. By that time, she'll be 92 years old, hopefully still with us, but she wouldn't have literally known what happened, just because it was a seamless transition for her. And her care was well maintained, and frankly, I would expect her to be here because she's thriving right now without the worries of maintaining a home and all the things that go along with that. So that's one real life, honest to goodness example, and that's again on the trust side. So another bank, another institution might delegate that off to someone else or even to an attorney's firm. You know, we can kind of do it both in conjunction with an appropriate attorney's firm. So as far as the things that I want to say, I'm going to kind of keep it a little short. I'm a member of the wealth management department at the bank. We just changed our name from investment and trust company to wealth management. And as I think Marc said, that word wealth gets in the way a lot of times. People think they need lots of money. This woman's case certainly proves that not to be the case. But we're equally on the management side of a person's situation. And in this case, the case that I just mentioned is a management situation. So I think we can do more than some others can do because we can handle the financial aspect in any way possible. And we can also work on the management side, which is a little bit more critical in a nursing home assisted living situation. A couple of key words. We're always looking for goals. You know, we want to define the goals. Today the goal is to assist you with assisted living to see if this kind of a setting is more appropriate than where you are, meaning the particular people who we're here for today, and obviously the children or friends helping out. That's our goal. Tomorrow I'll talk to somebody else and the goal will be a retirement situation or an education situation. But we've got to define the goal in terms of a time frame and a dollar amount. And that's what we would do in this situation. You heard some of the numbers from Paul, and they're big numbers. They're big numbers, and this is for a lifetime because we're all living longer. Our role is to be aware of the cost of aging, and we know we're all living longer, and you also have to realize that medical expenses are getting more expensive. So the combination of that, the longer you live, comes the question, will I outlive my assets? And we want to do everything we can to prevent that. So that's our role, to deal with the financial realities. As a bank, and this is, I guess, my emphasis here, we're trying to make ourselves your financial resource for relevant information and for viable solutions. We feel that knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have, the better decisions that you can make. Another theme that we promote is your money, your future. What you do now is going to determine the kind of future that you have. And my last point is, you know, how do we do this? We're strong believers in the financial planning process. Much like if you were planning a trip to California or to Hawaii. You know, you're going to check out the different airlines and prices. You're going to look at the, you know, if you're going to fly or take the car or whatever. But you're going to map it out, and you're going to spend a lot of time on it. Frankly, a lot of people spend more time on a trip like that than they do their financial future looking forward, and obviously which one is more important. So what we would do is determine your goals and objectives, dollar amounts and time frames. We'd review your financial position, your income, your expenses, your cash flow, your cash reserves, your investment portfolio, the equity in your home, all of those things, to get a real snapshot picture of where you are. We'd look into your protection planning, life insurance, disability, long-term care, property and casualty. We found out today, potentially your life insurance may be a funding source. I wasn't really thinking that strongly of that area, but I'm hoping that I can talk to that gentleman. We look into your investment situation and your retirement situation. Your investment situation, we talk in terms of portfolios. your collection of all your investments that aren't in your retirement portfolio. Because your retirement portfolio would be IRAs, 401ks, things that are all tax advantaged that have a consequence when you take the money. Your personal investment portfolio is your checking account, your savings account, your CDs, your mutual funds, real estate, annuities, things like that, and they might work a little bit differently. But we're always looking for diversification. We're always looking to see that you're well-rounded, and as you get older, generally your need for income becomes more than for growth. We look into anything involving tax planning. It's very important for a lot of the people here are taking required minimum distributions from your IRAs and qualified plans. We monitor that. There might be some ways of taking advantage of that legally. We look at your estate planning in conjunction with Marc and review that on a periodic basis. I get a lot of people that say, oh yeah, I got a will, I got a trust, I got all these things, and I say, well, show me, and they don't have them. Or they've got outdated ones. And that's not a good situation to start with. So we look at all of that. Question?
Tony, how long do you wait after making a will?
Well, I'd say that, well, it wouldn't be a number of years, it would be changes. And Marc can add. In other words, if you did a will, you know, you first got married maybe after your first child. And then all of a sudden there's another child. And then there's a child with a special need. Or all of a sudden the kids are married and just you and your spouse, and you get an inheritance and things start changing. And then as you go further on, there are more changes. So what would be the appropriate answer, Marc? Changes?
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. You know, any personal changes in your life that have been significant, but even I think just having it looked at, if it's a few years old, is important for changes in the law. Around 3 years ago or so, the law changed in Massachusetts. There's a new probate code now that affects some provisions in wills. So I think we generally say you don't want to let too much time go by. You know, every 3 to 5 years is probably about right to look at updating your estate plan.
So I think a conscientious person would look every 3 or 5 years. An unconscientious person would look every 35 years. And the last comment there in terms of how we approach this, those are the accepted areas of financial planning, but I always throw in other issues and concerns, because in every household there are other issues and concerns. There may be the son-in-law that you don't like. There may be you know, just all kinds of situations, an inheritance coming about, just about, you know, a divorce, a second marriage, you know, kids here and there. So those things really need some addressing. And sometimes we can't get to the real heart of the issue unless we take care of those things first. So we're looking at very globally, and as a result, we come down to the nitty-gritty of one's financial situation. With families, we consult with existing advisors, accountants, attorneys, bankers, insurance agents. Should there not be appropriate advisors, we bring them in, as we brought Marc and his firm in to this woman, and we try to establish relationships with them. Just tell you a quick story about Marc's partner, Tim. This woman that I'm talking about, she's almost stone deaf. And you know, we have to talk straight on, very succinctly, and because again, there's a questions of competency. We couldn't go forward with those documents if she was incompetent. So what Tim did, and it seems so simple, with a magic marker he wrote out his questions. And she's a great reader. And she had 100% comprehension of what we were doing. And we had 100% confidence that she was competent. And we have a record to show if anyone should question it. Incidentally, this woman has no family. No family. But we didn't, you know, you never know who's going to come out of the woodwork, so we had the evidence. I think it was a really creative, simple way of bringing some both compassion and understanding to the situation. In some cases, we bring in other people that are appropriate. For example, there's a position called a geriatric case manager, where someone would answer some of the questions that you might have geriatric type questions. Other bill payers, other healthcare groups, real estate people. For example, we brought in a real estate agent to sell this woman's house, and other support personnel. This is what I would have called a crisis situation. Within a week, we had the team assembled. You know, we were on a first name basis with everybody, and everybody's going off and doing their thing, and we're bringing it to some degree of conclusion right now. The last thing I want to say is that a lot of times guys like me, especially in my previous career, are trying to sell stuff. And that's the nature, you know, until a sale is made, nothing's really happened. But again, it's so nice to be able to bring stuff to people, investments, different types of products and services, and know that they're actually going to solve a problem, and there's going to be hopefully a favorable outcome. So with that, we've basically concluded the program, but the key on this was to have some panel discussion or questions. For example, I have a question for you. John, I think, mentioned the SHINE program. Do we all know what the SHINE program is? Who knows what the SHINE program is? And who would like to tell us what the SHINE program is? This young lady first.
They help you for a lot of things, like for the health care.
Yeah, spelling out Medicare, for example, the different programs. They spelt it out for me. I knew a little bit about it, but I was checking on them. Okay, exactly that. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And they're generally retired people, experienced from, they might be an accountant from their past life or whatever, and they're right at every senior center, I believe.
Yeah.
They have their own SHINE counselor, just like John mentioned. The veterans agents are per community. So that would be one resource. Have you had a chance to check with the SHINE people at all?
My father doesn't live in this community. I live in this
Okay,
community.
but in either community, you know what? These people just want to help. You know,
I understand that.
they
Government sponsored, isn't it?
oh, yeah, I'm sure it is. I don't know if it's state or federal, but it's a well-known program, and I'm going to venture to say there are some people that are sharper than others, you know, in terms of what they bring to the situation. So maybe one might not give you the answers, but maybe another community person would. Help me out here, folks. We need some questions. Just a couple of questions. Yeah, good.
Mark, gifting. What is the protocol for gifting and how much is it in Massachusetts yearly?
So gifting, you can think about that in terms of two main issues. One is, I think most people will think about gifting from the tax perspective. How much can I give to a beneficiary, child, friend, anyone in a year without incurring any tax? And that's generally, it's $14,000 a year currently. That's the federal amount. Massachusetts doesn't have any gift tax liability that you would incur. So if you go above the $14,000 in a year, you start to eat into your lifetime amount that you can give away. And currently, each individual can give away around $5.5 million during their lifetime. So you have plenty of wiggle room most of the time if you do go over the 14. The other consideration with gifting, though, is from the long-term care perspective. And if someone, when you go to apply for Mass Health for long-term care, nursing home care, everyone's heard of the look-back period, 5-year look-back. So they're going to look back at the previous 5 years, and what they're doing there is trying to determine if you've made any transfers that were for less than fair market value. In other words, did you give away or make gifts in that 5-year period? And if you did, their general assumption is that you did it to try to qualify for Mass Health. And they zero in on transfers of $1,000 or more. They're going to ask for detail about those. So, you know, there's two considerations. Gifting from the tax perspective, generally not an issue, but thinking ahead, long-term care, there could be some consequences for it.
Is it per child, or is that policy supposed to be 14 per child?
Yes, from the taxes it would be 14 per person per year. So if you are married, you could give 14 to a child, and your spouse could give 14 to a child.
But the 14 is the cap for that calendar year.
Yes.
So, but if you had 3 people that you wanted to distribute money to, you could have to divide that 14 up by 3, or is it 14 per person?
14 per person.
Okay. But still, the 5-year look back is going to hit you either way.
Right. So with that, they're going to see the 14 that was made, and at that point, you find yourself defending it.
And of course, the key to that is to pre-plan. You start your planning program knowing that you're in good health, you got probably 5 years that it won't be an issue. I've sat on meetings and a wealthy person saying, well, I got to find people to gift it to. So I raised my hand. She didn't go for that, but it was literally in that case there, thinking of people who can I reward for doing stuff for me, and helping me do what I want to accomplish. Obviously, an extraordinary situation.
Just a second moment. What about a defensible argument for contributing to a grandchild's college fund? I mean, is that something that is exempt, so to speak, or given a pass by, say, the Medicaid people, or I mean, is it just hands down as long as you give somebody money, they don't care? I mean,
It's going to be questioned. Almost certainly going to be questioned. So I think you get into, as I said, defending it and saying, well, okay, this was a habit here that we were in paying for tuition for grandchildren. We did it for our oldest grandchild. Now we're doing it for the next one in line. So this is just something that we've done for our grandkids, and really, it wasn't done to try to qualify for Mass Health.
yeah, and especially if the account is locked until these kids are of college age and they can't utilize the assets. I'm just trying to.
You're making a very convincing argument. My take is it's not going to work.
Okay. Well, that's
No, I mean, think about it. Why? Right now, money's at a premium. Mass Health is being stretched. Matter of fact, Mark, the 5-year look back, in 5 years, what do you think it'll be? Probably won't be 5 years. I mean, that'll probably, just like it was 3 years first, 3 years, now it's 5 years. It's not going to go backwards. So, again.
What if I put some money into refurbishing my house?
Probably a good solution. Again, Mark, could you please legally respond to that?
Yeah, generally that's an allowable expense. Yeah.
Similarly, I've got another client that we're working with. She's buying a new car. We went down to the Nissan lot the other day because that's an automobile, primary automobile. Now, if you got 6 cars, that might be a little bit different. But her primary vehicle, her husband's in a nursing home, not in a good situation, but we don't know how long things are going to last, so she's buying a new car now. It's also part of their spend down, a legitimate spend down. And she's made some home improvements as well, because eventually she'll want to sell the house for the kids, and it'll all be done. Kathy, maybe, can you just give us a little bit more on PACE? If someone was interested, you gave a good summary, what should be the first thing to do? Should they go online?
So the point of contact, I would be your first point of contact, and before you leave, I'll give you a brochure that I stapled my business card to. I'll pass that out so you can add that to your folder here. So I would be your first point of contact, and we would just have a casual conversation over the phone. I would invite you, as I said, to come for a tour if you were interested at one of our sites that's convenient to where you reside. And after that, I would schedule, if you're interested, if you meet the requirements, an enrollment nurse would come to your home and assess your living situation and go through a medical screening with you. And after that, you would be invited to come to the site and meet with our interdisciplinary team members. As I mentioned, there's 11 of them, and they would just consult with you, ask specific questions, see who your specialists are that you're seeing. And we want to hear from caretakers also, because I did forget to mention, our program is not just for our participants to be able to age in place, it's for our caretakers to have some respite so that they're able to manage the needs of their loved one when they do return back to the homestead after being with us at our Adult Day Health Program, if they so choose to join us Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever works for your schedule. After the intake, when you come and meet with our 11 interdisciplinary team members, you're then asked to come back in and review the service plan that has been designed specifically for your needs to be able to allow you to age in place safely. And that service plan would include how many days a week we think that you would benefit from coming to our Adult Day Health Program, how many hours a day will you have home health aides if you need that at the time, what type of durable medical equipment we would supply for you to remain safe and healthy living in your home. That service plan obviously would change as your needs change. And you would be assigned a social worker and a clinical nurse manager to be able to consult with on a daily basis if you had specific questions about our program. So first point of contact would be to reach out to me, and we would just have, start the conversation as far as looking at options. And again, as you've mentioned time and time again, we are all going to need to look for options as we age, and it's always better to, especially when you have your cognitive state is healthy at this juncture, it's really important to be able to communicate what your wishes are along with those that are caring for you.
So it starts with the telephone call, basically.
Yes.
Telephone call or an email message. Paul, the same, where do we go from here in terms of Whitcomb House? What's the best way to get started?
So, as I mentioned before when I spoke, it's never too early to start considering all of your options when it comes to assisted living. So, especially for those who are watching at home, if they're interested in the programs I heard about here today, come get in touch with Whitcomb House. Visit us on our website, whitcombhouse.com, call us at the community, email me. Our phone number is 508-634-2440, and I can also help get you in touch with the people that you got the chance to hear today, and Brad, who isn't here unfortunately, but we can also get you in touch with people who will talk to you about senior life care funding. So the next step, as Kathy said, really does begin with a phone call or an email, or stop into Whitcomb House and take a visit. After this is all done today, I will be offering guided tours to anyone who is interested in taking a look around Whitcomb House. But for those who couldn't be here today or who may want to come back another time, just know that my door is always open, and the best way to start getting your information together is to just start that collection process. Because again, we can always help somebody if they're in a crisis situation, but it's always better to start early.
And I think, Mark, that would be your theme as well. You're never too early to start an estate plan. Just getting the very basics in order makes it a lot easier later on, and you never know what's going to happen. You never know. Similarly, in John's case, now John's audience is a little narrower. I think there were 3 or 4 or 5 veterans or spouses. So I guess my message to you would be give John a call and just check out your situation. And again, he's not going to make the determination, but he can certainly direct you on the right path. And given that long time frame to approval, getting started early certainly could get that ball rolling. So I think with that, unless we had any other questions, can you help me? No other questions? Can you make one up?
Sorry.
You can? Okay. So I get a time and a half. Yes.
As a suggestion, hopefully next time you make out paper, put telephone number on.
Telephone number, good suggestion. And obviously our cards are in the folder, so I can provide that information. Just give me a call, and you'll have that in a second. Email addresses for people, I'll probably put both on. That way it'd be an easier communication. Absolutely do that. And now I guess if we're finishing up, I'd just like to ask you for a personal kindness. That's another word for a favor. A personal kindness, to fill out the applications as honestly as you can, with as much feedback as you can, with the appropriate contact information. If you'd like to be on our newsletter, please indicate that. As far as rating the presentations, we'll improve the next time. And we do have another presentation at Cornerstone. If you're interested, that's on your sheet. and we've had one at Blair House already. So with that, I think there are a few cookies left, and thank you very much. Have a nice day.